to be back in a craft that I'd really worked hard on as a youth, really, and I've gotten back in the ring, gotten myself back in shape, and I'm getting better all the time, so I'm really happy about it, to be able to put it down and pick it up.
But now you're fighting a guy that was a former world champion. He's only lost to the best in the business, Holyfield, Michael Spinks, and the first Holyfield fight was just a terrific fight. The second Holyfield fight, he feels that he lost because he had to take off too much weight. He's much more comfortable as a heavyweight. Did you really want to fight a tough guy like this?
Not really. I don't really like fighting tough guys. I would prefer to fight guys who are 110 pounds, 5 foot. But it just so happened that as you keep moving around, the promoters, they have a lot to do with who they match you with, and you want to match as evenly as you can. And I think this kind of fight is really, basically, I'm ready for these kind of fights.
Well, you know, George, after this, in my opinion, you have to fight a guy in the top 10. And from there, Tyson is right around the corner.
That's right. I hope to keep fighting as often, as much as once or twice per month. And eventually, I'd like to clean up the whole heavyweight division. That includes the heavyweight champion of the world.
I like to be an underdog. I mean, I wouldn't want another way. You know, it like fuels my fire. You know, and you know, I like being an underdog. It's okay. You know, it's okay to be an underdog because I want him to have all the confidence in the world.
There's the tail of the tape, both in their mid to late 30s. Foreman with a huge height and reach advantage. Qawi, known as the Camden Buzzsaw, just 5 defeats in his record, former world champion at light heavy and cruiserweight. He lost his last title to Evander Holyfield. George Foreman, gold medalist at the Mexico Olympics. His record still very impressive. Only Ali and Jimmy Young have beaten him. Our commentators then are Gil Clancy, and he's alongside Al Bernstein.
Okay, you're going to box for 10 rounds. You know the rules of boxing. Avoid using any kinds of foul. Don't throw any punches during the break. Is that clear? Seconds, come out fighting.
George Foreman ready to take on Dwight Muhammad Qawi. This crowd in anticipation of they don't know quite what, because Foreman in his other efforts has won every time out. Depending on your outlook, it's a good idea for him to be back or it's a bad idea. And there's an overhand right by Qawi. He saw the Guido Trani fight, and I'll tell you, Guido Trani was able to land all kinds of punches on George Foreman.
And Qawi landed a good overhand right, shook George a little bit just to start things off. But there he goes pushing him, now just as I predicted.
And Padilla gives him a warning. Now, Padilla is a referee who usually has kind of a hands-off policy about things.
I don't know why George isn't working that left jab. He's allowing Qawi to take liberties.
Qawi, who is thick around the middle, make no question about that, able to pretty much walk in.
I don't understand Foreman's strategy at all, Al. He should be keeping this little guy away from him. Just keep snapping that great jab that he has in his face.
There it is. And, of course, the uppercut you would expect to see from George Foreman. Foreman looks like he's kind of toying with Bracken, or with Qawi. And there's the jab from Foreman.
No, he's not snapping that jab, Al.
Good right by Qawi. Well, I did the fight in which Guido Trani, who was knocked out by Foreman, fought him, and Trani, who is nowhere near what Qawi is, was able to bounce lefts and rights off the head of Foreman. So
George has to keep it out there with that left jab. If he starts to stay inside, he can get himself in a lot of trouble.
The jab and the uppercut are his two most important weapons. He just missed with them there.
You know, you mentioned the fact that Qawi is thick around the middle. Actually, he's got no body to hit.
That's true.
And his trunks are up around his chest.
If anything Foreman throws to the body, you'll be a low blow.
George is allowing Qawi to take too many liberties.
Qawi can hit him with the overhand right. It looks like just about any time.
I don't think he doesn't have a good left hook behind that right hand.
Foreman lands the hook. I think the key question, Gil, is what will happen to Qawi when Foreman lands something, if he lands something big. Look at the jab of Qawi. He may be short, but as you've said many times, it's timing that makes a left jab.
Absolutely correct. I've seen many a short guy out-jab these big, tall guys. He can come in behind the other guy's jab.
Dwight Qawi having himself a fine first round. He's holding his hand out to keep Foreman at bay. And George Foreman looks ponderous and slow right now, and he's taking right hands to the head. And that one shook him. Body shot by Foreman.
Two good body shots, Al.
Well, this fight starting as Qawi would like it to. It's not the same very busy Qawi that we saw as a cruiserweight and a light heavyweight, but he's landing. There's the right and the left by Foreman. Hey, guess what? It did knock Qawi down. That'll do it for round one. The crowd is kind of hushed because what they're seeing here is not exactly, I don't think, what they thought they'd see.
You know, I think a very more confident Qawi went back to the corner after he saw the way that first round went.
That's true, and let's hear what they're telling him.
You go down bitch in the stomach, okay? Try to kill the stomach first. Hit this big son of a bitch in the stomach. It's here to come down to you then. Alright? You're reaching up for one, right? Alright? All you gotta do is keep moving.
Slim Robinson and Wesley Muzan, not too many better cornermen.
Tops in the business. They really know their business.
And Eddie Aliano in there to work cuts. That's a good trio of men.
Well, that means they're taking this fight very seriously, as they should. And in George Foreman's corner, he stood up for the entire round, which I completely disagree with. You can take advantage of that minute rest, and you can get the guy's attention better when he's sitting down in front of you. George just stands there and, well, he's his own man. He does his own thing.
And you had first-hand experience with that when you trained him. He has won all his fights in this comeback effort. In truth, it hasn't been a glittering group that he's beaten. But he's won them all. And won them all by knockout.
The thing with George Foreman in this fight is he's not snapping that jab. He's trying to think a little too much. And Qawi's giving him a lot of head motion.
Now the question, it may seem early to talk about stamina, but it isn't, because you saw Qawi in training get tired very quickly.
Well, he's carrying all that extra weight. He figures that George Foreman has never been known for his strategy, but he has been improving in that area, I guess because he's a little more relaxed. And I saw him box 12 straight minutes in the gym without a rest, which I also disagree with, but they have him doing it.
Well, at least it shows he can do it. For Qawi, the left hook lands, and if he keeps getting hit with those punches, he's going to have a problem.
George is trying to time him, and just a little bit of head motion that Qawi is giving him is throwing Foreman all off. He's just got to let his punches go, miss one or two, and land a third one.
But the left hook uppercut is starting to get there against Qawi. In the old days, the Dwight Muhammad Qawi that was so skilled as a light heavyweight and a cruiserweight would probably not be hit with those. He was very tough to hit. Right now, he's getting nailed by Foreman. And it's taking its toll, I would think. Well, he's standing in there with him. Oh, that one hurt Qawi. He's hurt now. Padilla steps in, but Dwight Qawi is definitely stunned. After a good first round, Qawi has been nailed with some big right hands, lands his own hook against Foreman. And the right hands that were bouncing off Foreman's head in round one are not there now. A much slower Dwight Muhammad Qawi, but a pretty slow Foreman as well. There's the jab by Foreman.
That's what he should be using. Good left hook by Qawi. And another good left hook. Foreman pushes him off on a right hand and another right hand.
George Foreman felt those punches. He is getting nailed with some big shots now by Qawi. Qawi with the jab that lands.
And Qawi is talking to him.
Qawi was hurt earlier. Now he's back against the ropes. Well, an interesting round two, to say the least.
Certainly was. George looked like he was getting it from pretty good, starting to get his timing down a little bit. Qawi came back with a series of punches, and they all landed.
And Foreman continues to stand in between the rounds.
I'll put that thing in my nose.
Dwight Qawi did land some big ones in the last round.
Let's take a look at a little action from that last round. There's George very lazy with a jab, and he gets countered by a left hook.
In a round.
And another left hook. And George is trying to push him off.
And that, a very familiar posture for Foreman.
But you're terrible. counter it. You counter it with your right hand, okay? But get the chin down. Open the eyes on the lower down. Let me go the right hand. Up the right hand.
We're headed to round 3. That is George Foreman, the 39-year-old ex-champ, trying to recapture that glory. Looking across at what looks like kind of a tired Dwight Muhammad Qawi, but a Qawi that's landed some big shots in the first couple of rounds. Qawi, the former light heavyweight and cruiserweight champion. Gets another right hand home.
That's because George is not using that jab. What they should be telling him to do is jab at Qawi's chest. He's not going to miss him if he hits him on the chest, and he's going to knock him off balance where he can throw a couple of combinations.
And there's the jab that you talked about.
Well, he just pushed it, though, Al. He's got to snap that jab.
Right hand by Qawi, and that woke up the crowd and woke up Foreman a little, but he doesn't back up. He keeps coming. Throws a bizarre right hand to the back of... Oh, there goes... Something hurt Qawi to the back of the head.
It looked to me like it got hit in the back on the kidneys, Al.
Now, is that a knockdown or not? I guess not.
I guess whatever it was.
Boy, it was very tough to see what that was. Something hurt him.
Well, Foreman just nailed him with a pretty good right hand.
You may be right, Gil. It was something to the kidneys that drove him out of the ring. You know, he was holding the back of his head. It was not called a knockdown, apparently. There was no...
Well, the referee didn't give us any indication of what it was.
There was no 8 count.
So with Qawi on the deck, we should have at least given us some kind of... And now Qawi is landing some pretty good short punches himself.
Uppercut hurt Qawi, but we've said that before, and he seems to come back. Foreman under the microscope, to be sure. People looking at what he has and what he doesn't have. Qawi in a bad spot for him in that corner. Lands some right.
That left hook was a go-home left hook, but it missed.
Under a minute left to go in round 3. In a round in which both men have landed big shots just like the second round. Again, the right by Qawi, a counter right.
George doesn't seem to have any snap in his punches at all, Al. They're so ponderous, but pushing punches.
And that's probably why Qawi's still standing, because he's landed some big shots. There it is again, the right hand. Those are not tremendous punches. Because as Gil said, they're not being delivered properly.
His big punch, his best punch is still that left jab, but he's not using it. Big left hook by Qawi.
Dwight Qawi doing what Guido Trani did so well, those overhand hooks and overhand rights, getting there. For George Foreman, defense is not his strong suit right now.
Well, because he pulls his hand so far back before he punches out.
And he is, but that has always been the case with him, and he's always had that problem.
You got him bleeding. All right. Come on. Bring your nose out your mouth. We ain't going to do it. Bring your nose out your mouth. Let it out. Come on, real hard. Give it a smile. Keep coming.
Coming into your territory now, Dwight.
Yeah. All right, boy, come on now. You can do it now, man.
Let's take a look and see about that mysterious knockdown. Little left hook, and there it is.
Yeah.
A right to the kidneys. And Qawi just fell down.
It was that strange right hand. It was a delayed reaction, which is why it was tough to tell what did it.
He must have hit him pretty hard in the kidneys.
You know
to hold his
what?
height.
I guess.
The rider.
George Foreman can hit.
Fire yours right back because he's wide open over top. Let's go now. Come on now.
Pep talk to Qawi. We're headed into round 4, longer than a lot of people thought this would go. It's a close fight.
It certainly is, and George Foreman was just bouncing up and down like he's trying to feel his legs. There's all that pushing that I was telling you about that they were working on in the gym. In my opinion, should be just working on punching with George, not pushing. It's not using that left jab at all, Al.
Not even a little bit.
Wouldn't you think that from the other fights he knew that was his best punch, that that's what he'd be doing, snapping out that jab?
He used it very effectively in his fight with Rocky Sikorsky and even the fight with Trani and in all the other ones. Not here. Qawi gets in the left hand. Weird slapping right hand, and Padilla appropriately gives Foreman a warning for backhanded.
Well, it was a backhand.
Now, this has really slowed here. And what we saw in the Norris-Snipes fight could take place here. Two men very tired.
They're telling George in the corner, rough him. I'd be telling him to punch him.
I think that might be a better idea.
Rough him.
Qawi not much on his punches right now. In fact, nobody's really punching.
Well, the funny thing is, Qawi's strategy says if he can get George into the later rounds, George would be tired. George's corner strategy is to rough Qawi to make him tired. I mean, why don't they just depend on fighting ability instead of seeing if we get him tired first?
Maybe we should skip right.
Good right hand counter by Qawi.
Good combinations by Dwight Qawi.
He's able to hold George off with one hand and throw that right hand with the other hand. Foreman better start punching.
There's the jab. Uppercut by Qawi. And so what has been landed in this round primarily has been landed by Qawi.
Left hook by Qawi.
Now he's taunting George just a bit.
Well, Foreman is going to have to start putting a little snap, especially the left jab.
There isn't much on George Foreman's punches right now.
And George is starting to gasp for air, Al.
Right hand by George Foreman that does very little damage to Qawi, or it appears. George looks disinterested, looking over at his corner. Lands the uppercut, not much there. Well, for the cynics that didn't think George Foreman should be doing this, they're probably making their case right now because he's not looking good.
They have to remember, as heavy as Qawi has become, he still was able to go 15 rounds with a guy like an Evander Holyfield. He has abilities.
Oh, yes, he definitely does. There's no question about that. Now, he was hit with 3 good shots by Foreman. Gil, I don't know about you, but I have my answer. I think that Foreman is not going to knock him out with one punch. If he's going to do it, it'll have to be with a series of punches.
He's going to have to start, again, snapping that left jab, really get some snap into it, get him on the end of the jab. If he can't do that, he's in for a long night.
Hear what they're saying?
Now, let's listen to Foreman's corner and get back to where we're going. Once the front field, they go down hard. Big jab.
George Foreman. Charlie Shipes has been not real active in his corner, talking to him, but pretty subdued. George with a 52-2 record, 49 knockouts in that span. Of course, the only 2 men he lost to, Muhammad Ali and Zaire African, and a decade ago, losing to the fancy boxing Jimmy Young in the heat in, I believe, San Juan, Puerto Rico, correct?
San Juan, Puerto Rico was 100 degrees in the building.
You were there. You know about that heat.
Well, that was about as much snap as I've seen George have on a punch tonight. A little left hook.
He has not gotten leverage on his punches. He's landed some big ones, warning the Qawi for low blows. Qawi landing a couple of good shots.
Foreman pushes Qawi back, and while he's off balance, he doesn't jump on him. And that takes some energy to be pushing that 222 pounds around all the time. Qawi just relaxes, steps straight back, and George doesn't look to punch him. Time after time.
That tactic started when he did so effectively to Joe Frazier and pushed him off his rhythm. But in this instance, it seems that's not necessary. He could just stand back and punch, like that.
George is looking to find it. You can move your head all night, Al, but your body doesn't move. George can throw some real bombs downstairs.
He's really not trying to hit the body of Qawi. He's landing in this round, no question about that. He's having a good 6th round.
And he got nailed.
Qawi lands a short right hand and a left hook. Another hook by Qawi. Foreman just pushes him off. But you have to start thinking decision here if this fight keeps going. And start talking about who's landing more punches. Foreman's had a pretty good 6th round, but Qawi came with a couple of big shots.
Well, if this fight continues this way, I think we're going to see a very controversial decision.
It does have split decision written all over it. Right hand by Foreman, and that uppercut hurt. He faked him out. Wow. He faked out Foreman, then came back with a right hand. That was fascinating. I've never seen a fighter fake that much.
No, it looked like he was going down.
Wow. We've all seen Ali fake being hurt, but not quite in that posture.
And now George turned around and looked at his corner.
Gil, do you feel like everything is kind of in slow motion here?
Yes, I
Like
certainly
we're
do.
watching a fight as if you could stop it and use a still every 10 or 12 seconds. There's 22 seconds left in round 6, and that left hook did hurt him. That's a knockdown because, no, it isn't. It should have been. He went against the ropes.
Against the ropes, right. That's correct.
That should have been a knockdown. Instead, Foreman stopped punching. Qawi got up. Oh, there's been some odd things in this round. Qawi went down a couple of rounds ago. No, nothing was called. That'll do it for round 6. There's a full moon out tonight.
Next round is going to be an important round, Al. If Qawi gets by the next round, I think we're going to find things very, very interesting. Depends on how much will Qawi has right now.
How you feeling? Tell me, boy. Huh? How you feel?
Serious questions being asked in that corner, and here's what we thought might have been a knockdown.
Big left hook by George. That is a knockdown.
Yes.
When the ropes prevent you from going down, it's supposed to be a knockdown.
It's what the rule book says, but in this case, it wasn't called a knockdown.
Big flip to the right hand.
Using the end swelling on the left eye of George Foreman. We're moving into round 7. It's been a bout in which that man, George Foreman, has hurt Qawi a couple times, but Qawi has also nailed him.
I think this is the key round right now. This is going to be the key.
And if you're wondering, George Foreman, since he started his comeback in March of '87, has never gone to the 7th round. So this is new territory for him since he came back.
Some blood on the front of Qawi's trunks, but I can't spot where he's bleeding from now. He's so wide open for a left hook underneath Qawi. I mean, to feint that jab, he could just rip that hook under.
And you would think that would be something George Foreman would be using.
Well, somebody maybe has to tell him.
It's true.
And even then, what makes you think he'd pay attention, you know? Yeah.
The right hand gets there by Foreman. There's the uppercut, and that right hand pushes Qawi back. But before we had thought Qawi might be in real trouble, and he wasn't. The jab and the right hand by Foreman. And the jab helping to set things up, and as you said, Gil, it's something he should have used earlier.
He's got a great jab, but he just won't use it.
That was always the case, even in the old days.
Well, he's using it now, Al. 5 consecutive good jabs, and then he went to the body.
Well, you said this would be a key round, and right now George Foreman is dominating it.
That was the first good left hook to the body, which I think he can land all day.
And I'm not sure that didn't really hurt Qawi. I think Qawi wants to quit. That's it.
Well, as I said, Al, he had the will to get by this round, which he did not have.
Well, it's an unsatisfactory ending, to be sure, from all standpoints. But as you look at George Foreman, he'll take it because he gets the win, and I guess continues on in his comeback bid.
Well, you know, we said it was, we thought it might be an ugly fight, Al, and it was. There was nothing sparkling about the fight whatsoever. George just brutalized Dwight Qawi is what he did.
And there were, of course, many times in that fight, and it'll be interesting if we get a chance to get the judges' scorecards, how they had that scored, because there's a very good chance in my mind Qawi was maybe even or a little bit ahead. It was close anyway.
Very, very close. I thought maybe the Foreman was
by a point or two.
That's all.
Well, George Foreman wins on a TKO. It is his 8th straight win since his comeback. And As all the others had ended in a knockout, this time he was extended to 7 rounds, the longest he has gone. And some people will wonder, did he beat anybody in Dwight Muhammad Qawi? And what would a top heavyweight do to him? Well, I guess we'll get that answer in the future.
Let's take a look at some of those short. The end of there was that good left hook underneath. I think that took all the rest of the fight out of Dwight Qawi. I had mentioned that he was wide open for that punch, and he's just brutalizing him now. Nothing great, no big snap, but the punches are there, and I guess Qawi knew he was out of gas, and that was the end of the fight.
George, if we can spin you around here, if that's possible. This fight started out on a tough note because Qawi was landing those overhand rights and those left hooks. Were you hurt by any of those?
Well, not really, but I was really devastated by his energy, his ability to recover from punches.
It looked to us like you had a hard time getting off with your jab, and then finally you got that left hook into the body. Was he a tough target to hit?
Let's face it, shorter guys are really unorthodox for boxers. The shorter they are, the harder it is to get an orthodox jab off on him, and he was playing it real good. He played my jab, but as a rule, it caught up with him. The toll did catch up with him. He's a fine man, brave individual.
Were you happy with what you did tonight?
Well, you know, I'm happy when I win, but he wasn't hurt, and I'm thankful to God for all that. I'd like to say hello to my sparring partner, Roscoe, down in Houston. He was a middleweight who got me in shape for throwing fast punches. And I'd like to say that I feel overshadowed by you. You're too much of a celebrity. You know, you're a singer and everything, and I'm just a boxer, but...
Well, but in this fight, there were moments where it looked like you got everything going, and there were moments where it was very difficult to you.
Well, I really didn't want to get out there and get a first-round knockout. That's what I was trying to avoid. I wanted to use my left jab, see how I could do against shorter guys who have good overhand rights. The heavyweight champion of the world fights like that. So it's to my benefit that I go one or even several rounds with these kind of fighters. I'll only get better, and they'll get hurt anyway because they can't